I don't know if anybody can see this because it's very, very shadowy. This is called, some people, no matter how old they are, never lose their beauty. They merely move it from their faces to their hearts. And that's something else I keep in my house to remind me. Um, and this poem, When I Am Old Woman, I Shall Wear Purple, I think I first heard it when I was 40-ish. And being old didn't mean that much to me, even though I was working with the elderly for about 15 years at that time. But there was just something about this poem that sort of stopped me and made me think. So, when I am old, when I am an old woman, I shall wear purple with a hat which doesn't go and doesn't suit me. And I shall spend my pension on brandy and summer gloves and satin sandals and say we've no money for butter. I shall sit down on the pavement when I'm tired and gobble up samples in shops and press alarm bells and run my stick along public railings and make up for the sobriety of my youth. I shall go out in my slippers in the rain and pick flowers in other people's gardens and learn to spit. You can wear terrible shirts and grow more fat and eat 3 pounds of sausages at a go, or only bread and pickle for a week, and hoard pens, which I do, and pencils and beer mats and things in boxes. But now we must have clothes that keep us dry, pay our rent, not swear in the street, and set a good example for the children. We will have friends to dinner and read the papers. But maybe I ought to practice a little now so people who know me are not too shocked and surprised when suddenly I am old and start to wear purple. Pay our rent, not swear in the street, and set a good example for the children. We will have friends to dinner and read the papers. But maybe I ought to practice a little now so people who know me are not too shocked and surprised when suddenly I am old and start to wear purple. Um, and that just,
And what are you wearing?
and of course I'm wearing purple. After I found that copy, um, I actually went out and bought myself a purple jacket and discovered that it had nothing to do with being old for me. Purple was actually my power color. When I was wearing my purple jacket at my work, I was in control. I had the power. People listened to me. People heard me.
It's the
People
color of royalty.
did what I asked. And Matthew just reminded me it's the color of royalty, which is true.
It's rainy and die from
Um,
shellfish.
so, and again, at 40, you don't think you're ever going to get old or it's far away. And then I met Matthew, and on my way home from our first date, I had a vision of me with my cat and my book on my couch, and Matthew with his cat and his book on his couch,
And myself.
both of us very old and gray in front of this humongous fireplace, which seven or 8 years later, we were sitting in front of that fireplace. It belonged to the 300-year-old house we used to live in before we came to live in the trailer. So that sort of made me think, oh, because no one in my family lived to be ripe old, or not too many. My parents died in their 50s. My grandparents died in their 50s. So, longevity wasn't a thing that I was looking forward to because it didn't happen that much in my family. As the family aged, we do have 80-year-olds. Actually, the last one just crossed over. So longevity wasn't a thing for me. I just figured I was going to die young like they did, which living proof I didn't. So I started thinking about getting older and being with Matthew for the rest of my life. And it was kind of a nice thought. I bought more and more purple things. Um, I have a wild purple dress with mustard spots on it. That shocked a few people the first time I wore that. This is purple, and it has one of my favorite things is dandelion fluffies. I used to give those to children who came into my office and told them it was it was fairy dust to make a wish.
You
So
steal flowers from neighbors?
I do actually. I got caught stealing some flowers from the guy next door, except there's nobody that lives next door. It's an empty lot. But the guy next door to that said, "You realize you know, you don't belong there." I said, "Do you realize I'm your fucking neighbor?" And he went, "Oh." Like, go away, bud. But yes, I do. I pick daffodils in other people's yards, and yeah, I don't eat sausages anymore. Damn.
You
And
probably
I have learned to spit. I have learned to spit. So, you know, I'm getting there. I'm getting there. But what I wanted today was to talk about everybody's feelings because we are growing older. Even Ariana, you grow older every day. Get over it. It happens. You know, and people are, what I found in my career, because I worked with the elderly, is people are afraid to touch old people. People are afraid to hug old people. Like it's catchy. Of course it's catchy. We're all going in that direction. And they need hugs and love, if not more than the younger ones. You know, and one of my patients actually said that to me. She says, "You know, you're the only nurse here that ever hugs any of us." Yeah, and well, it's probably against the rules. I said, you know me, I don't go by the rules. If the rule doesn't fit me, I don't obey it. That's just who I am. That's how I get away with things. I've always gotten away with things. There's a part of me that really believes that I am truly special, and should be able to get away with things. And I think as I got older, that's gotten worse, if you want to call it that. And saying things to my doctor like, "You look like you're 12," is something only an old person could get away with. And when he started to get upset, I said, "Hey, listen, honey, I'm old enough to be your grandmother, so show a little respect. You look 12 to me. I'm sure you can do your job. We're going to be good, okay?" And he just laughed hysterically. Like, I'm sure no patient's ever talked to him that way. He's this cute little Jewish doctor with all his curls and his big glasses, and this old lady's calling him 12. He was extremely competent. I wasn't doubting his competency. I was just telling him what he looked like to me, you know. And as I said to Alice earlier, all the nurses look like kids. Did I doubt their competency? No. They were like a new bunch of children for me, you know, a new bunch of children to adopt, because I adopted most of my nurses' aides and my younger nurses. And actually, some of my nurses' aides are nurses because I encouraged them. So, you know, growing old for me hasn't been as scary as I thought it was going to be. I had a lot of good examples. One of my really great wild friends at Stone Ridge, her recipe for living to be 100, and she did, was a half a grapefruit every morning and a pint of the hell, some kind of Kentucky whiskey.
Jack Daniels, probably.
No, Rebel Yell. A pint of Rebel Yell with dinner. How she ever made it back to her apartment, I don't know. But she did. And then one day she fell, broke her hip. She looked at her son and she said, "I'm 100 years old. Most of my friends are dead. I'm done." And he said, "But Mom, the surgery is simple." She said, "I told you, I'm done." And she was dead by 9 o'clock the next morning because she was done, you know? And that's what the elderly have given me. You have that choice. You can die when you want to. You don't have to suffer. You can have a good life. You can have friends, no matter how old you are. A lot of the women had gentlemen friends, but no way were they going to move in with each other. They wanted their space. They didn't have to be married anymore or part of a couple anymore. For me, that works because I happen to find the best man in the whole world and I'm lucky. But if anything ever happened to him, would I go looking for another one? I doubt it. Go make your lunch. So, you know, the elderly have taught me a lot. They taught me that it was okay to be me. They taught me that it was okay to give my opinion about things, that my opinion counted. They gave me the respect that I had lost in Rhode Island through some idiots. And they showed me that I was valued. When the company said, no, you can't leave one part of the company to go do something else in another part of the company because the company part that I was working for was driving me nuts. My clients got together and wrote a letter and said, she goes, you go. It was that simple. They said, you know, Paula has saved so many lives here. You cannot let her leave your company. And that shocked me. I just sat there and cried when I read the letter. And these are doctors and nurses and lawyers and professional people that wrote this letter to this huge corporation. Like, now, if she goes, you're part of the nursing piece, because that's what I was part of, is going, and we're going to hire the visiting nurse. And I was stunned. And so was the company.
So what's elderly? What age do you have to be to get elderly? Because I'm not elderly yet.
Well, technically it's over 65, technically. But 70 is now the new 50. So who knows what, I mean, old is probably 100. I don't know. We haven't got there yet.
Maybe 85, maybe 80.
Maybe. And some of it is how you feel. You know, until my surgery, I didn't feel old. I don't necessarily look old because I don't have a lot of wrinkles because I make my own face cream. And nobody would ever believe that I was the age of even my clients didn't believe I was pushing 70 when I was getting ready to retire. They said, no, you're not that old. Yeah, I am. And believe me, I'm feeling it. You know, I'm getting back to not feeling so old as I get my energy back after the surgery, and cardiac rehab is wonderful. But that's how I feel about getting old. What about the rest of you?
Well, I'm 71 now. I guess I'm going to be 72. Yeah, I'm going to be 72 this coming October, but I don't feel old. I'm not old. I still feel not young, but middle-aged. I'm planning to live to 96, so I don't really plan to get old until after 85, maybe 86.
I think as long as we create and use our brain, we're not going to get old. We will die, yes, but that doesn't mean that we'll necessarily be old. It's when you isolate yourself and crawl in a hole that you become old.
Yeah, and when I mean, there's things in the body where the cells turn a switch, but it's only because the cells have decided to turn that switch. Otherwise, cells regenerate and keep themselves young for
Supposedly every 7 years you're a new self because everything rejuvenates in 7 years.
yeah. So just don't turn the switch.
They're working on that.
I'm 77, but in my mind, if I don't look in the mirror or look at myself on Zoom, I feel like I'm in my 40s.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Until I look at the backs of my hands and see the crepey skin there. And I think those can't be my hands. Those are not my hands. But when I took an early retirement at 56, just because I could, and I took a job right away, a part-time job at the senior center. because I always loved working with seniors. I was a recreation supervisor, so I did a lot of programs with seniors and kids and adults. But I was drawn to the senior center, and I was 56, so I kind of grew into that space. And a lot of them were mentors to me, were my idols, my heroes, because I taught exercise classes, and I had people in my classes that were in their 70s, 80s. I taught a chair class because I started getting arthritis in my knees and my hips. I played softball for 25 years, and I was a catcher, so I was up, down, up, down. So my knees are giving out. So I developed the chair exercise class. And some of the people there at the senior center were so thrilled that I started a chair class, because I had 5 people in that class that were over 90. I had some that came to that class with walkers, with canes, and they were very appreciative. And so I sort of grew into that senior category with them, and it was kind of cool. And I still don't, I still have trouble with, I think that I can do all these things that I've always been able to do, and I find that I can't. And it's a little depressing sometimes, but then again, I have people tell me, well, you don't look your age, or you don't act your age. But I gotta say, one thing that bothers the hell out of me is when people say that age is only a number. I don't believe that. I think age is how you feel, not it's not a number, but it is a number. I mean, when you stop and say, I'm 77, that's a high number. It's not just a number. But I just think that when it's weird. I'm going to say this. When I look out the holes that are my eyes, I do not feel like I'm 77 years old. But when I look in the mirror, or look at my hands or the skin, then I know I am. But it doesn't bother me that much, because I basically,
Yeah, one of my patients with dementia, what the dementia did for her is make her, when she looked in the mirror, made her see her 40-year-old self with her red hair, which was totally amazing to my staff. I thought it was hysterical. I thought it was really cool that she is 82 years old. She looks in the mirror and she sees her 40-year-old self. Now that's cool. That's a trick of the brain that ain't a bad one, you know. I just loved going into the bathroom with her so she could comb her red hair, which was now Snow White, but in her mind, it was still flaming red. And
that's
that
very
was,
cool.
yeah, that was a gift from Alzheimer's, you know.
So I need to say, when I was very young, I was terrified of old people. My mother says it's because the neighbor's mother used to chase me around and want to, like scoop me up and kiss me. But I think it's because I saw my future. And but the thing, because I'm surrounded by 80-year-olds now, and of course when you're around people in their 80s, the likelihood that they are leaving this earth plane is higher. Not necessarily so. I've lost a lot of friends in their 40s and 50s, but the thing is, when I think about my aging process, like I look back and I look at all of the fragmented, disparate experiences, seemingly fragmented and disparate, right? Experiences of my lifetime. And it has made me who I am. And it was what I was meant to do. It's what I was signed up to do when I came into this lifetime. But what I appreciate about my own experiences, because I can't speak for others, is the wisdom that I have gained, the things that I can now see that I didn't see before. And the biggest thing for me at 51, I had a major spiritual awakening, like a true spiritual awakening, where I began to hear the spirit world and interact with the spirit world, and not everybody gets to do that. So I feel blessed that is happening for me. But I do appreciate the wisdom that the elders bring, you know. And sometimes when I went home this last time to see my parents, probably for the last time, what I understood about their lives is that they lived a very narrow life. They did not experience what I have experienced. And so they look at me, they don't understand me, right? They don't understand me at all. And that's okay. I'm good with that now. But, you know, I mean, the other thing I appreciate about the wisdom that I have gained is when people want to hear it, I'm more than willing to share it.
Well, I read the poem, and the very first thing that struck me when I got to the end was, this is my life. I was wearing purple, I think. Yes, it can be a physical thing, but I read it as it was a spiritual attitude that you go through life. And I was lucky enough, I was raised with the attitude of wearing purple. And I mean, I was fortunate enough, I was adopted into a family. I was 5. They were all 75, 80, and 90. And it was a huge family. But I grew up as a 12-year-old. I was exposed to 90-year-old, very vibrant, very energetic, cognitively aware. And as a result, I got to see what life would be like for me when I attained that age. And then when you're told along the way that you're not going to grow old, you kind of cherish every day you have since you were last told that. And you have a choice. You can grow old or die young. Well, I missed young, you know, so now it's a matter that I hope to die as cognizant and healthy as possible, but mentally I will be wearing purple until they shovel the dirt on my face.
To me, purple is a very healing color. And the amethyst, it reminds me of the amethyst. And I wear amethyst all the time. I have an amethyst crystal necklace. My earrings are amethyst. I'm very drawn to that stone because it's purple, maybe, I don't know. But I just feel like it's a very healing stone.
Okay, I'd like to weigh in a moment here. Purple, beautiful. You know, the purple is the gem worn by bishops traditionally forever. Purple is the color of art. No. I hear some voices. Do you hear that?
Oh, sorry. My roommate just got a call.
Thank you. So, purple's associated with the archangel, and it's associated with our ministry. And where it comes in is beautifully, not only through the archangel, but through the administration of the ascended master. And which one is that? Which one would you guess it would be?
Saint Germain.
Saint Germain, exactly. So Saint Germain is also the character you'll find in Brothers of the Grape, the second book written by Arnold Michael. And And Franz, I love that book, that interfaith book. I'm going through it, and I've recommended it to a men's reading group I'm part of. And Kevin, I think it's what it's taught me is that our interfaith community is like a stint in the heart, the sacred heart of humanity. And so what we're doing is setting the example of, you could say purple, but all the colors that are expressed in life. But purple is the one that's noted for peace. And peace, as we've read about in the Interfaith Community book, doesn't necessarily mean quiet. We can be actively involved, and activity sometimes can be pretty noisy. But the element of being at peace is necessary to set the example. I once had a professor that led a group of students. He fashioned himself after Gandhi, he thought. So I went to one of his students' followings, and what I discovered was many of the students that were promoting peace weren't really promoting peace. They weren't finding it within themselves. They were hostile, they were angry. They were the type of people that would have attacked the White House. So you can still be actively engaged in community and making change as long as you're coming from that center of peace within ourselves. Then our hearts are open and our minds are clear and we are being productive.
So I'm 73. I'll be, I guess, 74 in May. But like Laura said, if I don't look in the mirror, I feel like I'm in my 40s. And if I forget that I'm not in my 40s because I love to be outdoors and I love to hike. And when I get to my knees know that I'm not 40, but I still can't stop walking and hiking. And so when I get to a certain place climbing up a hill, I realize I'm in my 70s, but mentally I still feel like I'm in my 40s. But the interesting thing about purple, I look at colors more so from a chakra point of view, and the energetic essence of the different colors. And after being on a spiritual hiatus for about 20 years because it was more of a religious moving away, when I came back to spirituality, I understood that purple is the crown chakra and one of the highest spiritual colors. And I didn't purposely or consciously start this, but all of a sudden, everything I bought or owned or wore or looked at was purple, to the point that for about 7 years, I was obsessed with purple. And of course, that was for 7 years, I was obsessed with renewing my spirituality. And that didn't connect with me till, maybe after the fact. But people actually called me the purple lady. And then after about 7 years, I started wearing, reds and yellows and greens and all the colors. And from a chakra perspective, it felt like I was becoming more well-rounded because I was incorporating the different chakras and their energy and their purpose and their colors. And so when I think of purple, it's as much about um, the energy and the essence of the chakras as it is anything else. And the chakras to me also are part of my spirituality. So um, I think that's what my thoughts are about purple. And Laura said it too. I have quartz and little purple crystal gazing balls and just different things all around me that are still purple. So I'm very happy in purple, even though I no longer wear it all the time. And my spirituality has become a more peaceful, as Charlie said, a more peaceful place than an obsessive place. It's sort of woven into my everyday life instead of being the only thing I could talk about or think about or focus on. So I'm glad you mentioned that part about peaceful, because that's the way it feels to me now.
Today I felt very old because I have no voice today, and it's difficult to talk and maybe for you to understand. I'm 58, and I doesn't feel very old. I think I'm feeling like I'm 20. But as I get the same problems as my father had in this age, so sometimes I feel, oh yes, now you are getting older, and but I think there are many good attitudes that the that when we have more life experiences. So it's very, very important to have it and to have learned from it. And so I think that's getting older is also connected with getting more wiser and becoming more wisdom also of life, and to give this back to the young ones. And also purple is a very spiritual color for me. And it looks very wonderful that you have you, Paula. It's great. Yes, thank you.
So I just need to share, speaking of the wisdom of the Father, my dad and I often have conversations about, that he believes he is wiser than I am. And while I was home, he needed to get his furnace replaced. And so I pinged a friend who then gave us a referral for someone, and it turned out to be a fiasco. The guy was not good. He wasn't professional, and it was terrible. And so my dad and I talked about how we both learned from that experience that you don't just take someone's word for it that someone is going to be, just because they're a backdoor neighbor from when you were a kid, it doesn't mean they're good. So so I said, see, that makes me smarter than you because I learned your lesson at the same time. So.
I'm sure he didn't see it that way. Go ahead, Charlie.
Francis, I just replaced one of my furnaces. And what I've learned is that if they're recommended by Costco, they've done all the research. I don't have to do it. And I've had 2 furnaces installed by the same firm that they're very proficient. But that doesn't mean you can't negotiate and get maybe something much different than it's advertised. But That's all I wanted. Oh, Franz, thank you. I wanted to say in our ministry, what I often saw is the role of bishops were people that were actively kind of recruiting, bringing in people. I certainly did a lot of that in my lifetime. And I was always puzzled because Franz, who I hold in a very high esteem, uh, didn't seem to be able to bring in anybody in his community into our ministry. But I would say this, that as the book that Franz recommended to us, The Interfaith Community, it makes it very clear that there's a law of attraction. And the attraction comes from being who you are and the clarity and the purple color that Franz and his humor, good humor throughout and his crystal clear consciousness has been a marvelous asset to our community for many years. And I'd just like to say I appreciate that very much, Franz.
Okay, Ariana, it's your turn.
I do say, because there's a song from the 90s from this artist Aaliyah, that age ain't nothing but a number. But she also married Art Kelly when she was like 13 or something like that. It's a whole nother situation. But I don't think age really does matter. I have friends that are across the board, older, younger, all over. And I did have a hard time when I turned, I think it was when I turned 36, because I was like, oh, I have to check a different box now. And, you know, that was like my turning point, that I thought that I was older. And then from there on, I was like, I still am 36. Like I'm 41 now. But it's interesting in the way that I've never associated my age with anything else, because I've always been in situations with elders. A lot of the time I find myself with elders because I want to learn, and I want to learn lessons and the wisdom they have to share and be enlightened by them. And I find myself that I am with elders. But also going to the color of purple, it is a very healing color for me. And I am very much into crystals, and I carry an amethyst around with me a lot. And I do this practice that if I have like a negative thought or something in my head, I literally pull it out and cut it with an amethyst to release it. And so I feel like purple is a very strong color. And when I'm in my meditations, in my Reiki practice and stuff like that, blue and purple are my strongest ones. My guide is purple. She's she comes with me, and when I need comfort, it goes like if I'm angry of some sort, and I see like red is rage, it goes into purple to calm me, and then I go into blue, into my safe place. So that's like purple is a very powerful color. And I mean, going back to royalty, it's a royal color. It's going back to everything, and it's interesting how everyone comes back to that color of it being some sort of power, right? But I'm in a purple on my toes right now. Just bringing it in from the root. But yeah, it's interesting because now once I turned 40, I thought I'd have this big party and do all these things, but I was a new mom and in the situation that I couldn't do that. And then it just kind of bled in one into another. And I feel like I am still young at heart and have a lot of energy, and I was in the best shape of my life at 38, and I need to get back to that. But yeah, I just feel like growing and learning and becoming wiser in each stage of my life is what's really important. And yeah, like I know you don't like it, Laura, but age ain't nothing but a number. And that's how I feel it is. It's just lessons that we learn in the stages that we go through. That's it.
Thank you.
There was a discussion at the senior center one day about aging, and I was sitting there with everybody a lot older than me, most of them in their 80s. And this one woman said, you've all heard aging is not for sissies, and that's very true. But another one that she said was, if these are our golden years, there's nothing golden about these years except my urine.
True, very true. Yeah, I had a friend whose theory was she would have friends of all ages so that as her older friends died off, she would still have friends. And I've sort of taken on that myself. I have friends that are teenagers and, and I pick friends up everywhere. I'm like that. But one of my friends has an aura machine where she can actually take a picture of your aura and tell you what's going on. And we were doing some kind of a class where I had my hands on the woman and she was in the aura machine and all you could see was purple. And everybody went, "What's that?" And my friend who was running the machine said, "That's just Paula's healing energy. Don't worry about it. It's always floating around her." So, and I had never seen that. I had never seen that when I do my healing, the purple's there. I'm more aware of it now, but it was just like, wow, this whole picture was purple. And it was just like I had my angels with me and she was getting a healing. So and it got pretty warm in my corner of the room too. So, purple's, yeah, it's healing. It's special. And that's, I have amethysts too. And at my ears, I wear the amethyst with my healing crystal all the time. Especially when I'm doing my Reiki. Yeah, growing old is not for sissies. We go through a lot, but we learn from everything. Hopefully, there are people who do not learn, and that's their choice. My friend Pat, who just crossed over into spirit, chose not to learn from her disease. She chose not to fight it. She chose to leave. That was her choice. I got a message from her recently, and she said to me, "I finally understand why you always told me you loved me." She could never accept the fact that every time we ended a conversation, I said, "I love you." She could never say it back. She said it back once in 50 years that we've been friends. And that was a month before she passed over. But now on the other side, she gets it because I did love her. I loved her for what she was and who she was. Didn't always like her. I'm sure she didn't always like me either. So it was kind of nice to get that aha moment. She finally got it. And I just told her not to bug me because she started giving me advice. It's like, I hate advice. Advice is free and nobody ever takes it. So don't bother wasting your breath. But I've learned a lot from my elders. There's a lot we as elders can and probably should, and I don't like to use that word, but be teaching others. And I think as younger people come into our ministry, I'm hoping we can share our wisdom before we cross over. And that's my wish for all of us as we age is, that's one of our jobs. We spent a lot of time learning those lessons. And if I can get somebody to learn a lesson from what happened to me so that they don't have to go through that, man, I've done my job. And my sisters are perfect examples. Most of them think I'm nuts. But there's a couple of them that actually listen to me. And one of my sisters said to me, "I'm so happy you shared your wisdom with me and your belief about talking to the spirit world and manifestation." Now, my kid sister can manifest money all of a sudden like there's no tomorrow. She's the only person whose business has benefited from COVID. I swear. She just keeps getting loans and grants and she's rebuilt her business and she's, and she said, "And that's only because you shared your wisdom with me. I've done my job, at least once." And that's what I see, you know, for our ministry as we all age, is to do our job, is to share those lessons, because if you can keep somebody else from being in pain, why not? I don't really believe we were put here to be in pain. Yeah, we were here to learn lessons, but they don't always have to be painful if you can learn them through somebody else and the mistakes they made. And sometimes they're not mistakes. Sometimes we just see them as mistakes. So that's my wish for all of
Some
us.
of them have to learn how to enjoy, you know, that's one of the good lessons, and that's not painful. I've been taught over my life to identify with spirit, and so my spirit, when I was 7, how old was my spirit? You know, when I was 7 years old, and when I'm 90, how old will my spirit be? The spirit's eternal. It's just the body that's the game here, that the body ages. We were born, we die, but if you identify with the spirit, then you're identifying with the eternal. And the eternal is always kind of joyful and creative.
Yeah.
Thank you, Danny. Paula, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
In the military, why do they give injured soldiers a Purple Heart?
Usually I think it's for bravery. Why it's purple, I don't, again, it's a royalty color. It's a,
No, it's when they
No,
get shot.
noble.
they get injured with a purple heart. Yeah, usually if you get injured, it's a purple heart. Why it wouldn't be a red heart, I don't know. I don't know, but I thought it was given for somebody who was injured and was brave, was a purple heart. I don't know. Anybody got a
reason
better answer?
purple was so valuable
Hang on. Yeah,
that it was made from a shellfish in the Mediterranean, and the Phoenicians discovered it and made a dye from it. But it was so difficult to extract that only royalty had purple robes.
okay. Did everybody hear that?
No.
Because it was so expensive that only royalty could afford it, I guess.
It was made from shellfish in
Yeah.
the Mediterranean.
Oh, I thought it was
And it was
octopus
called from
ink.
the city of Tyre, which
Right.
was Phoenician.
Right.
And it was called Turanian purple.
Turanian
And
purple.
And only the royals could afford it.
Right. So maybe that's why they give them purple hearts, because it's more valuable.
Well, it's also highest on the color chart. You know, as you go up from red up to ultraviolet, you know,
Right.
it's the highest on the chart before you start getting into no color at all. So,
Interesting question, Charlie.
Okay.
Wish I had a better answer.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I'll go look that up after.
Okay.
do you have
Who's supposed to,
an
who's praying us out today? I'll pray us out since nobody's volunteering.
Okay.
Close your eyes, take a nice deep breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. Take another one in through your nose, out through your mouth. And a third one, and out through your mouth. And today we're going to see a ball of purple light, starting at our crown chakra. And slowly, slowly going through our third eye, our fifth chakra, our throat chakra, the heart, the solar plexus, the sacral, and the base chakra, and going down into middle earth, pretty deep, and activating a crystal that was clear and turning it into a purple crystal. And once that is done in your mind, please ask that purple energy to flow back up through your feet, up through your legs, in through your basic chakra again, your sacral, your third, your fourth, your fifth, back up to your third eye and your crown, and feel all your meridians energized by this purple and sparkling with purple energy, and healing every part of your body that needs to be healed at this point in time. And let it flow as it goes up through your body. Take anything negative that's stuck somewhere and pull it out and send it back to the universe to be amended and to disappear. And so it is.
So it is.
Thank you, Paula. That was beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great week, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And wear purple.